Hello, beautiful soul. I want you to take a deep breath with me right now. Just breathe in slowly, and as you breathe out, let your shoulders drop. Good. I know you're here because something inside you is searching, yearning, maybe even aching for something more in your life. Perhaps you've been running from one thing to another, trying this method and that technique, looking for love, seeking success, chasing after peace, or desperately wanting that perfect life you see others living. And yet the harder you try, the more elusive everything seems to become. I understand this feeling so deeply, and I want you to know that there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken, you're not doing anything wrong, and you haven't failed. What you're experiencing is actually one of life's most profound lessons knocking at your door. Today, we're going to explore something that might seem backwards at first, but I promise you it's one of the most liberating truths you'll ever discover. You see, there's a beautiful paradox in life that most of us learn the hard way. The more desperately we seek something, the more it tends to slip away from us. It's like trying to catch a butterfly. When we chase after it with our net, flailing and running, the butterfly dances just out of reach. But when we sit quietly in the garden, still and peaceful, often the butterfly will come and land gently on our shoulder. I've watched this pattern in my own life and in the lives of thousands of people I've worked with over the years. There was a time when I was so hungry for love, so desperate to be accepted and cherished, that I would bend myself into impossible shapes trying to please everyone around me. The more I chased after their approval, the more I lost myself. The more I lost myself, the less there was for anyone to truly love. It wasn't until I learned to stop seeking love outside myself and started cultivating it within that love began to flow into my life in the most unexpected and beautiful ways. This isn't just my story. This is the human story. We live in a world that teaches us that we must go out and get what we want, that we must push and strive and never give up. While there's truth to taking action in our lives, there's also a deeper wisdom that our culture rarely speaks about. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is to stop pushing so hard and start allowing. Right now, as you're listening to these words, I want you to place your hand on your heart. Feel that gentle beating, that rhythm that has sustained you since before you were born. Your heart doesn't strain to beat. It doesn't worry about the next beat or try to force itself to pump faster. It simply beats in perfect timing, trusting the wisdom of your body. This is the kind of trust and flow we're going to explore together. What if I told you that everything you've been seeking is actually already seeking you? What if the love you want is wanting you just as much? What if the success you dream of is trying to find its way to you? What if peace isn't something you have to earn or achieve, but something you can simply stop resisting? I know this might sound too simple, too good to be true, but I invite you to open your heart to this possibility. During our time together, we're going to gently examine why we get caught in the trap of seeking, how our very desperation creates resistance to what we want, and most importantly, how we can shift into a state of graceful allowing. We'll explore how our thoughts and feelings create the energy that either attracts or repels our desires. We'll look at the beautiful wisdom of nature and how we can align ourselves with life's natural flow rather than fighting against it. But this isn't just about getting what you want. This is about discovering who you really are underneath all that seeking and striving. This is about coming home to yourself, to a place of peace and contentment that doesn't depend on external circumstances. When you find this place within yourself, life begins to respond to you in magical ways. So let's begin this journey together. Let's explore how to stop seeking and start receiving. Let's discover how to stop chasing and start attracting. Let's learn how to stop forcing and start flowing. Your heart already knows this wisdom. We're just going to remember it together. When we talk about seeking, we're really talking about an energy, a vibration that we put out into the world. Everything in life is energy, including our thoughts, our emotions, and our desires. When we're in a state of seeking, we're usually coming from a place of lack, of not having enough, of something being missing from our lives. This energy of lacking actually creates more of what we don't want. Think about how it feels in your body when you really, really want something. Maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's money, maybe it's a job or a home. Notice how your chest might feel tight, how your breathing might become shallow, how there's an urgency and a tension that runs through your entire being. This is the energy of desperation, and while it's completely natural and human, it doesn't help us attract what we desire. The universe responds to our energy like a mirror. When we're vibrating from a place of I don't have, or I need, or I must have this, or I won't be happy, the universe hears that energy of lack and gives us more experiences of lacking. It's not punishment or some cosmic joke. It's simply the way energy works, like attracts like. Now, this doesn't mean we can't want things or have desires. Our desires are beautiful and natural parts of being human. They're actually guidance from our higher self, showing us the direction we want to grow. The challenge comes when we attach our sense of worth, our happiness, or our peace to getting these things. When we make our joy dependent on external circumstances, we give away our power. There's a difference between wanting something from a place of joy and inspiration versus needing something from a place of fear and desperation. When we want something joyfully, we think about it with pleasure, we daydream about it with excitement, and we feel good when we consider the possibility. When we need something desperately, we think about it with anxiety, we worry about not getting it, and we feel awful when we consider the possibility of not having it. Our emotions are like radio stations, broadcasting signals out into the world. When we're broadcasting fear, anxiety, and desperation, we're tuned into the station of lack and limitation. When we're broadcasting joy, gratitude, and contentment, we're tuned into the station of abundance and possibility. The world responds by sending us experiences that match our emotional broadcast. This is why you've probably noticed that when you're feeling really desperate about something, everything seems to go wrong. When you're desperately looking for love, you might attract people who are unavailable or unkind. When you're frantically searching for money, unexpected expenses seem to appear. When you're anxiously hunting for the perfect job, rejections pile up. It's not because the universe is against you. It's because your energy of desperation is creating resistance to what you want. On the other hand, you've probably also experienced times when you were feeling good about yourself and life, and wonderful things seemed to happen effortlessly. You met interesting people, opportunities appeared out of nowhere, and life felt easy and flowing. This is what happens when we're in alignment with the energy of allowing rather than the energy of seeking. The beautiful thing is that we have the power to shift our energy at any moment. We don't have to wait for circumstances to change to feel better. We can choose to feel better now and then watch as circumstances begin to shift to match our new energy. This is the fundamental shift from seeking to allowing, from chasing to attracting, from desperation to trust. When we understand that our energy is constantly creating our experience, we begin to see that we're not victims of circumstance. We're not at the mercy of a random universe. We're actually powerful creators, and our thoughts and feelings are our tools of creation. This doesn't mean we can control everything that happens to us, but it does mean we have much more influence over our experience than we might have realized. The key is learning to release our grip on how and when our desires should manifest, while staying open to receiving them in unexpected ways. This requires a fundamental shift in how we relate to our wants and needs. Instead of demanding that life give us what we want, We learn to trust that life is always working for our highest good, even when we can't see how. Look around you at the natural world, and you'll see the most perfect example of how life works when we stop forcing and start flowing. A tree doesn't struggle to grow. It doesn't worry about whether it's growing fast enough or in the right direction. It simply receives what it needs from the earth and the sun and grows naturally according to its inner wisdom. The roots go deep without effort, the branches reach toward the light without strain, and in perfect timing, the tree bears fruit. The seasons change without any effort on our part. Spring doesn't push winter away. It simply arrives when the time is right, bringing warmth and new growth. Summer doesn't force itself to be longer. It gives way to autumn gracefully, which in turn surrenders to winter. Each season has its purpose, its gifts, and its perfect timing. Nothing in nature rushes, nothing in nature forces. Everything flows according to a wisdom much greater than our human minds can understand. A flower doesn't bloom because it's trying to impress anyone or because it's worried about being beautiful enough. It blooms because blooming is its nature. It receives sunlight and water and nutrients from the soil, and when the conditions are right, it naturally opens to reveal its beauty. The flower doesn't doubt its worthiness to bloom. It doesn't compare itself to other flowers. It simply follows its inner guidance and trusts the process. Rivers are perhaps the most beautiful teachers of all. Water always finds its way. It doesn't fight against the rocks in its path. Instead, it flows around them, over them, or if necessary, it patiently wears them smooth. Water doesn't worry about reaching the ocean. It trusts that by following the natural flow, it will end up exactly where it belongs. When a river meets an obstacle, it doesn't give up. It simply finds another way, always moving toward its destination with grace and persistence. The moon doesn't strain to pull the tides. The sun doesn't work hard to warm the earth. The stars don't effort to shine. Everything in nature operates according to laws that are bigger than individual will or desire. There's a rhythm, a timing, a flow that governs all of life. When we align ourselves with this natural rhythm, life becomes easier, more joyful, and filled with beautiful surprises. But as humans, we've somehow convinced ourselves that we're separate from nature, that we need to force things to happen, that we can't trust life to take care of us. We've forgotten that we are nature. We've forgotten that the same intelligence that causes flowers to bloom and seasons to change is alive within us. We've forgotten that we can trust this intelligence to guide our lives just as it guides everything else in the natural world. When we observe nature, we see that there are cycles to everything. There are times of planting and times of harvesting. There are times of growth and times of rest. There are times of expansion and times of contraction. Nature doesn't judge these cycles. It doesn't try to make spring come faster or make summer last longer. It simply honors each phase and trusts that everything has its perfect timing. In our lives, we often want to skip the winter and go straight to spring. We want to plant seeds today and harvest tomorrow. We want constant growth, constant expansion, constant progress. But this isn't how life works. Sometimes we need periods of quiet, periods of waiting, periods of preparation before the next phase of our journey unfolds. These times aren't delays or problems. They're necessary parts of the process. Think about how a farmer works with the land. A wise farmer doesn't plant seeds in winter and then get frustrated when nothing grows. A farmer understands seasons, understands timing, understands that there's a right time for everything. The farmer prepares the soil, plants the seeds when conditions are right, tends the garden with love and care, and then trusts nature to do what nature does. The farmer doesn't dig up the seeds every day to see if they're growing. The farmer has faith in the process. This is the kind of wisdom we can bring to our own lives. We can plant the seeds of our desires through our thoughts, feelings, and actions. We can tend our inner garden by cultivating positive emotions and releasing negative thoughts. We can trust that our seeds are growing even when we can't see the results yet, and we can have faith that everything will bloom in perfect timing. When we really understand this natural flow, we begin to see how much energy we waste trying to control outcomes that are beyond our control. We grip so tightly to our plans, our timelines, our specific ideas of how things should unfold, that we actually block the very things we're trying to create. It's like holding our hands in tight fists and then wondering why we can't receive the gifts that life is trying to give us. Control is really about fear. When we try to control everything, we're saying to the universe, I don't trust you to take care of me. I don't believe that good things can happen unless I make them happen. I'm afraid that if I let go, everything will fall apart. This fear is completely understandable. Most of us learned early in life that we had to fight for what we wanted, that we couldn't count on anyone else, that the world was a dangerous place where only the strong survived. But what if those beliefs, however understandable, are actually keeping us from the very things we want most? What if our tight grip is actually pushing away the love, success, and happiness we're trying so hard to secure? What if the very thing we think is protecting us is actually imprisoning us? I want you to think about holding a bird in your hands. If you squeeze too tightly, trying to make sure it doesn't fly away, you'll hurt the bird and it will struggle desperately to escape. But if you hold your hands gently, creating a safe space without gripping, the bird might choose to stay for a while, enjoying the warmth and safety you're offering. When you finally open your hands completely, the bird might fly away, but it might also choose to perch on your shoulder or return to visit you again and again. This is how life works with everything we desire. When we hold our relationships too tightly, trying to control every outcome, people feel suffocated and want to pull away. When we grip our money too tightly, afraid to spend any of it, we block the flow of abundance. When we try to control every detail of our career path, we miss unexpected opportunities that might be far better than anything we could have planned. The fear beneath our need to control usually goes something like this. If I don't make this happen, it won't happen. If I don't watch every detail, something will go wrong. If I trust other people or trust life, I'll be disappointed and hurt. These fears often come from past experiences where we felt powerless, where we were hurt or let down, where we learned that the world wasn't always safe or kind. Healing our need to control doesn't mean becoming passive or careless. It means learning to distinguish between what we can influence and what we cannot. We can influence our thoughts, our words, our actions, and our responses to life. We can set clear intentions, take inspired action, and create conditions that support our desires. But we cannot control other people. We cannot control timing, and we cannot control the exact way our desires will manifest. When we release our death grip on control, something magical happens. We open up space for solutions we never could have imagined. We allow other people to contribute their gifts to our dreams. We become available to opportunities that our limited planning mind couldn't have conceived. We discover that life has been trying to give us something even better than what we were demanding, but our tight fists couldn't receive it. Learning to let go is a practice, not a one-time event. Every day we get opportunities to choose trust over control, faith over fear, allowing over forcing. Sometimes it's as simple as taking a different route to work and trusting that we'll still arrive safely. Sometimes it's as profound as letting go of a relationship that isn't working and trusting that love will find us again. Each time we choose to release our grip, we build our trust muscle and our capacity to receive. The most beautiful part of releasing control is discovering that we are held by something much larger and wiser than our individual will. We are supported by a love that knows our hearts better than we know them ourselves. We are guided by an intelligence that sees the bigger picture, the longer timeline, the connections and possibilities that our human perspective cannot grasp. One of the deepest reasons we seek so desperately outside ourselves is because we don't believe we're worthy of what we want. Somewhere inside, there's a voice that says we're not good enough, not smart enough, not attractive enough, not deserving enough to have the love, success, and happiness we desire. This voice drives us to try to earn our worthiness through achievements, through pleasing others, through being perfect, through working harder than everyone else. But here's the truth that can change everything. You are already worthy. You were born worthy. Your worthiness is not something you can earn or lose. It's not based on what you do, how you look, how much money you make, or how perfectly you behave. Your worthiness is inherent in your very existence. You are worthy because you are. This might be hard to believe, especially if you've spent years trying to prove your worth, or if people in your life have made you feel like you had to earn love and acceptance. But your worthiness doesn't depend on anyone else's opinion, not even your own opinion of yourself. It's a fundamental truth about who you are at your core. Think about a newborn baby. That baby hasn't accomplished anything, hasn't proven anything, hasn't earned anything. Yet every loving person who looks at that baby knows that this little being deserves love, care, protection, and all good things. The baby's worthiness is obvious and unquestionable. You were once that baby. That same worthiness that was so clear then is still true now. It hasn't diminished. It hasn't been damaged. It hasn't gone away. It's just been covered over by years of conditioning and mistaken beliefs. When we don't feel worthy of our desires, we sabotage ourselves in countless ways. We might attract partners who treat us poorly because deep down we don't believe we deserve better. We might undersell our services or accept less money than we're worth because we don't believe we're valuable enough to command fair compensation. We might not even allow ourselves to dream big dreams because we don't believe we're the kind of person who gets to have those things. The journey back to knowing our worthiness often begins with healing the voice of our inner critic, that harsh internal commentary that tells us all the ways we're falling short. This voice might sound like a parent who was never satisfied, a teacher who was overly critical, or a society that told us we weren't enough unless we looked a certain way or achieved certain things. But this voice is not the truth about who you are. It's just old programming that you can choose to change. One of the most powerful ways to heal our sense of worthiness is to start treating ourselves with the same kindness and compassion we would give to a dear friend. When that inner critic starts its familiar litany of complaints, we can gently interrupt and say, "Thank you for trying to protect me, but I choose to speak to myself with love." We can begin to talk to ourselves the way a loving parent would talk to a cherished child. This doesn't mean we become arrogant or think we're better than others. True worthiness is humble and inclusive. When we know our own worth, we can also see the worth in everyone else. When we believe we deserve good things, we want good things for others too. When we love ourselves genuinely, we have more love to give to the world. Building a foundation of inner worthiness is like tending a garden. We need to plant seeds of self-appreciation, water them with kind words and gentle actions, and protect them from the weeds of self-criticism and comparison. Over time, as we consistently choose thoughts and actions that honor our value, our sense of worthiness grows stronger and more stable. When we believe in our own worthiness, something shifts in how we show up in the world. We stop begging for crumbs and start expecting the feast. We stop settling for relationships and situations that don't honor our value. We stop hiding our light and start letting it shine. We become magnetic to the very things we desire because we're no longer vibrating from a place of unworthiness and lack. This shift doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't mean we never have moments of doubt. But each time we choose to see ourselves through the eyes of love rather than the eyes of judgment, we strengthen our foundation of worthiness. Each time we treat ourselves with respect and kindness, we send a signal to the universe that we know our value. And the universe responds by sending us experiences that reflect this inner knowing. Once we begin to release control and build our foundation of worthiness, we can start learning the gentle art of allowing and receiving. Most of us are much better at giving than receiving. We've been taught that it's more blessed to give than to receive, that good people are selfless, that we shouldn't want too much for ourselves. While generosity is indeed a beautiful quality, many of us have taken this to an extreme where we're uncomfortable receiving anything from others or from life itself. But receiving is just as important as giving. In fact, they're two sides of the same coin. When we refuse to receive, we actually deprive others of the joy of giving. When we block ourselves from receiving love, compliments, help, or gifts, we disrupt the natural flow of abundance that wants to circulate through our lives and the lives of others. Receiving requires a kind of softness, an openness, a willingness to be vulnerable. When someone offers us a compliment, do we deflect it or argue with it? Or do we simply say thank you and let it land in our hearts? When life presents us with an unexpected opportunity, do we immediately list all the reasons why we can't accept it? Or do we pause and consider that this might be exactly what we've been asking for? Many of us have learned to be so self-reliant that we've forgotten how to gracefully accept support. We'd rather struggle alone than ask for help. We'd rather figure everything out ourselves than admit we don't have all the answers. But this fierce independence, while admirable in some ways, can actually keep us small and limit what we're able to create in our lives. The universe is always offering us gifts, but they don't always come wrapped in the packages we expect. Sometimes the gift of a new relationship comes through the ending of an old one. Sometimes the gift of a perfect job comes through losing the one that wasn't right for us. Sometimes the gift of inner peace comes through facing a challenge that forces us to develop strength we didn't know we had. Learning to receive means developing the ability to recognize gifts even when they're disguised as something else. It means staying open to possibilities even when they don't match our specific expectations. It means trusting that the universe knows better than we do what we actually need for our highest good. Receiving also means creating space in our lives for good things to enter. If our schedule is packed with obligations that drain us, there's no room for joy to slip in. If our homes are cluttered with things we don't love, there's no space for beauty to flourish. If our minds are constantly busy with worry and mental chatter, there's no quiet space for inspiration to whisper its guidance. Creating space might mean saying no to commitments that don't truly serve us. It might mean clearing out physical clutter to make room for new energy. It might mean taking breaks from the constant input of social media and news to create quiet spaces where we can hear our own inner wisdom. It might mean scheduling time for activities that bring us joy, even if they seem frivolous or unproductive. The more we practice receiving, the more natural it becomes. We start to notice the abundance that's already flowing through our lives, the smile from a stranger, the perfect parking space, the song on the radio that speaks to our heart, the unexpected check in the mail, the friend who calls exactly when we need to talk. We begin to see that we're surrounded by gifts all the time, and we start to appreciate them instead of taking them for granted. When we're truly open to receiving, we also become more magnetic to the specific things we desire. People who are comfortable receiving love tend to attract loving relationships. People who are open to receiving money tend to attract financial opportunities. People who are willing to receive recognition tend to attract situations where their talents are appreciated and celebrated. The key is to practice receiving without attachment to specific outcomes. We stay open to receiving whatever form our good might take, trusting that life knows the perfect way to deliver our blessings. We learn to say yes to unexpected invitations, to accept help when it's offered, to receive compliments gracefully, and to be grateful for whatever gifts show up in our experience. Now that we understand the art of allowing and receiving, let's explore some gentle practices that can help us embody this wisdom in our daily lives. The beautiful thing about these practices is that they're not complicated or time-consuming. They're simple shifts in how we approach our days that can create profound changes in how life responds to us. Let's start with how we begin each morning. The first few minutes after we wake up set the tone for our entire day. Instead of immediately reaching for our phone or jumping into our to-do list, we can create a small, sacred space for ourselves. This might be as simple as lying in bed for an extra minute or two, taking 3 deep breaths, and setting a gentle intention for the day. We might say something like, "I open myself to receive whatever good this day has for me," or "I trust that everything I need will come to me at the perfect time." During these morning moments, we can also practice the art of gratitude for what we already have. Before our mind starts cataloging everything we need to do or everything that's wrong with our life, we can consciously focus on what's already working: the roof over our head, the breath in our lungs, the people we love, the simple fact that we've been given another day to experience life. This isn't about forcing false positivity. It's about training our attention to notice the abundance that's already present instead of immediately focusing on what's missing. Throughout the day, we can create small moments of surrender whenever we notice ourselves gripping too tightly to outcomes. When we're stuck in traffic, instead of getting frustrated about being late, we can take a breath and trust that we're arriving exactly when we're meant to arrive. When someone doesn't respond to our text message immediately, instead of creating stories about what it means, we can practice letting go of our need to control other people's timing. One of the most powerful daily practices is learning to work with our breath as a way of releasing tension and attachment. When we notice ourselves getting anxious about something we want or worried about something we're trying to make happen, we can simply focus on breathing out longer than we breathe in. As we exhale, we can imagine releasing our tight grip on the situation. As we inhale, we can imagine breathing in trust and peace. Our bodies are constantly giving us information about when we're in the energy of seeking versus allowing. When we're forcing and striving, our shoulders tense up, our jaw clenches, our breathing becomes shallow. When we're in flow and allowing, our body feels relaxed and open. We can use these physical signals as reminders to pause and ask ourselves, am I pushing right now or am I flowing? Evening practices can be just as powerful as morning ones. Before we go to sleep, we can take a few minutes to review our day with compassion rather than judgment. Instead of focusing on everything we didn't accomplish or every way we fell short, we can appreciate ourselves for the ways we chose love over fear, trust over control, kindness over criticism. We can acknowledge any moments when we successfully practiced allowing, no matter how small they might seem. We can also use our evening time to consciously release any worries or concerns we've been carrying. We might imagine placing all our worries in a beautiful box and giving them to the universe to handle overnight. We might write down our concerns on paper and then burn the paper or tear it up as a symbol of letting go. We might simply say, I release this day and everything in it. I trust that tomorrow will bring exactly what I need. Creating peaceful moments throughout the day doesn't require major changes to our schedule. It might be as simple as taking 3 conscious breaths before we check our email, or pausing to appreciate the sunset on our way home from work, or taking a moment to really taste our food instead of eating mindlessly. These small breaks help us stay connected to the present moment instead of constantly living in the future, where all our desires will supposedly be fulfilled. The key to all these practices is gentleness. We're not trying to force ourselves to be spiritual or positive. We're simply creating opportunities to remember that we have a choice in how we relate to life. We can choose stress or peace, control or trust, resistance or flow. Each time we make the choice toward peace and trust, we strengthen that muscle and make it easier to choose it again. The most profound shift we can make is moving from the energy of I need to the energy of I am. When we're constantly focused on what we need to get, achieve, or acquire in order to be happy, we're actually affirming that we're incomplete as we are. But when we shift to focusing on who we are and who we're becoming, we start to embody the very qualities that naturally attract what we desire. If we want more love in our lives, instead of desperately seeking it from others, we can focus on becoming more loving ourselves. We can practice being kinder to the grocery store clerk, more patient with our family members, more compassionate with ourselves. As we become the love we seek, we naturally attract people who recognize and appreciate that quality in us. If we want more abundance, instead of anxiously chasing money, we can focus on becoming more generous with what we already have. We can share our time, our talents, our attention, our appreciation. We can treat what we have with gratitude and respect. As we embody the energy of abundance, opportunities for financial prosperity begin to appear in our experience. If we want more peace, instead of waiting for our circumstances to become perfect, we can practice finding moments of peace right now. We can choose not to argue with reality. We can stop making everything mean something terrible about us or our future. We can practice accepting this moment as it is while still holding a vision for what we want to create. This shift from needing to being is really about finding our joy and contentment in the present moment instead of postponing it until some future condition is met. When we can genuinely enjoy our lives as they are right now, we become magnetic to even more things to enjoy. When we're happy before we get what we want, getting what we want becomes almost effortless. The present moment is the only place where life actually happens. All our memories exist now, in this moment, as we think about them. All our future plans exist now, in this moment, as we imagine them. The only real power we have is the power to choose how we think and feel and act right now. When we stop postponing our happiness until tomorrow and start accessing it today, everything changes. Being present doesn't mean we don't have goals or dreams. It means we hold our goals lightly while we enjoy the journey toward them. It means we can work toward our dreams without making our peace dependent on achieving them. It means we trust that the process of becoming who we need to become to achieve our dreams is just as valuable as the achievement itself. When we focus on being rather than getting, we often discover that who we're becoming is more important than what we're acquiring. The person who learns to love deeply is forever changed, regardless of whether they end up in a particular relationship. The person who develops inner peace carries that gift with them wherever they go, regardless of their external circumstances. The person who cultivates confidence and self-worth becomes unstoppable, regardless of what specific goals they achieve. This is the magnetic power of contentment. When we're content with ourselves and our lives as they are, we stop radiating the needy energy that pushes things away. Instead, we radiate a calm confidence that draws people and opportunities to us. We become like a lighthouse, steady and bright, attracting ships safely to shore. Perhaps the most challenging aspect of this entire journey is learning to trust life's timing. We live in a culture that promises instant everything, and we've become accustomed to getting what we want quickly. But the most meaningful things in life often unfold according to a timeline that's different from our human preferences. Learning to trust this timing, to have faith in the process, to believe that delays are not denials, requires a deep surrender to wisdom greater than our own. Every delay has taught us something we needed to learn. Every detour has brought us exactly where we needed to be. Every closed door has redirected us toward a better opportunity. When we look back on our lives, we can usually see how things worked out for our highest good, even when we couldn't understand it at the time. This retrospective wisdom can help us trust the current process, even when we can't see where it's leading. The universe operates on perfect timing, not human timing. A flower doesn't bloom too early or too late. It blooms exactly when conditions are right. A baby isn't born on our preferred schedule. It arrives when it's ready. The sun doesn't rise when we want it to. It rises when it's time. This same intelligence is orchestrating the events of our lives, bringing together all the elements needed for our desires to manifest at the perfect moment. Sometimes what feels like a delay is actually preparation time. Maybe we're not ready for what we're asking for yet. Maybe we need to develop certain qualities or learn certain lessons first. Maybe there are other elements that need to align before our desires can manifest in a sustainable way. Maybe the universe is preparing something even better than what we originally asked for, and it takes time to arrange all the pieces. Other times, what feels like a rejection is actually protection. Maybe that job we didn't get would have made us miserable. Maybe that relationship that didn't work out was saving us from heartache. Maybe that investment that fell through was protecting us from loss. We may not understand it in the moment, but life is always working for our highest good. Building faith in life's timing requires us to expand our perspective beyond our immediate wants and needs. It asks us to trust that there's a bigger picture we can't see, a longer timeline we're not aware of, a deeper purpose that's being served. This doesn't mean we become passive or stop taking action. It means we hold our actions lightly and stay open to course corrections. When we truly trust life's timing, we can relax into the process of living instead of constantly worrying about when our ship will come in. We can enjoy the journey instead of just focusing on the destination. We can appreciate where we are now instead of constantly wishing we were somewhere else. This relaxation and enjoyment actually speeds up the manifestation process because we're no longer creating resistance with our impatience and anxiety. Faith in timing also means releasing our attachment to how old we think we should be when certain things happen, or what year it should be, or what season of life we think is appropriate for new beginnings. The universe doesn't operate according to human calendars or social expectations. Some people find love at 18, others at 80. Some people discover their life purpose in childhood, others in retirement. Some dreams manifest quickly, others take decades to unfold. None of this means anything is wrong. My dear friend, as we come to the end of our time together, I want you to know how proud I am of you for being here, for being open to these ideas, for being willing to consider a different way of approaching your dreams and desires. The very fact that you're listening to these words tells me that you're ready for the shift from seeking to allowing, from forcing to flowing, from desperately chasing to gracefully receiving. Everything we've explored together today can be summed up in one simple truth. You are already whole, you are already worthy, and you are already loved. The things you want are not needed to complete you or to make you valuable. They're simply experiences you'd like to have, gifts you'd like to receive, ways you'd like to grow and expand. When you approach your desires from this place of already being enough, everything becomes easier. more joyful, and more likely to manifest. Remember that this is a practice, not a perfection. There will be days when you slip back into old patterns of seeking and forcing and trying to control outcomes. This is perfectly normal and human. Be gentle with yourself when this happens. Simply notice what you're doing, take a breath, and choose again. Each time you choose trust over fear, allowing over forcing, being over needing, you're strengthening new neural pathways and creating new habits of thinking and feeling. The world needs you to stop seeking outside yourself and start shining from within. The world needs your unique gifts, your authentic self, your peaceful presence. When you're no longer desperately hunting for what you think you need, you become available to give what you came here to give. When you're no longer focused on what's missing from your life, you can appreciate and share the abundance that's already there. Trust that everything you've been seeking is also seeking you. Trust that the love you want wants you just as much. Trust that the success you dream of is looking for someone exactly like you to express through. Trust that the peace you crave is your natural state, waiting to be uncovered underneath all the worry and striving. Stop seeking, beautiful soul, and let yourself be found. Stop chasing and let yourself be caught. Stop forcing and let yourself flow. Stop demanding and let yourself receive. Everything you need is already on its way to you. Your only job is to stay open, stay grateful, stay loving, and trust the process. The universe adores you. Life is on your side. You are exactly where you need to be, and everything is working out for your highest good. Take a deep breath, place your hand on your heart, and feel the truth of these words. You are loved, you are guided, you are protected, and you are never alone. Go gently into your days, carrying this knowing with you. Let it change how you move through the world. Let it soften your desperation and increase your trust. Let it remind you that you are enough, you have enough, and you are already living in the miracle of this very moment. The seeking can stop now. The receiving can begin. Welcome home to yourself, dear one. Welcome home.